Oh, the mayor's coming in. Be upstairs.
Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Mayor for the Borough of Melton Mowbray, Councillor Alan Hewson.
Good evening and welcome to Melton Borough Council for the July council meeting. Evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by the one of 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. This is legislation that allows the public to film, record or use social media at a council meeting. This must not be destructive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. Can members please switch mobile phones to silent? Microphones. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. The microphone is live when the red light displays. I would now like to ask the Reverend Ruth Simpson to offer prayers. Thank you.
Good evening. Please join me in prayer. Loving Lord God, I first want to thank you for those who are gathered here. These councillors and officials who give of their time and their resources to serve this borough. These people who hold the borough and its events and its business close to their hearts, and who seek to serve the people that live within the borough. And so we also pray for those people from all different stratas of life, with all different needs, dreams and aspirations. We just pray for each person that comes under this umbrella. May they know that they are a child loved by you. May they know the comfort of your love. And may we who seek to serve them either in your name, Lord, or in the name of this council, do so with the love and the compassion and the care that Jesus taught us. We offer over now the business of this evening to you. We ask for your presence with us and your reassurance of your guidance. In your name we pray. Amen.
Item number 1, apologies for absence. Apologies have been received from Councillor Pitt Miller. Can any other member wishing to give apologies for another member indicate by raising their hand? No. I can therefore confirm that we have 27 members. Item 2, to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of May 23. Do I have a proposer, please? Thank you. And have a seconder, please. Thank you. Do any members have any comments to make in relation to the accuracy of the minutes? No. We'll now proceed to the vote then. All those in favour, please. That unanimous. That's unanimous, carried. Thank you. Declarations of interest. If any members would like to indicate that they have an interest to declare, could they please do so by raising their hand? Councillor Orson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I notice in declaration of interest, it does say another registered interest in respect to Councillor Orson. Could that be Councillor Joe Orson, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Waterfield Leisure Centre and I'm also a council flat tenant.
Thank you. Any other members? Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, okay. Item 4 now, the Mayor's announcements. You'll be pleased to know that this is not going to take forever, as sometimes people start to get a bit itchy with me. Since the start of my year this time, we started off with the Loros annual lunch. That was a really nice, interesting day just to go and see how the Loros really works, as that's my supporting charity. We then came to the opening of the Heritage Gardens here at Parkside with the Melton in Bloom people. There was a new garden open this time, which was through donations of a Melton family whose mother sadly passed away, was a clean gardener and wanted to donate some money to Melton in Bloom. And so a new garden was designed for that purpose. We then went to Birchwood School, and this is quite humbling to go to that school to see all these young people of various levels of ability and see how all the staff and everything worked there. It was a Food for Life partnership that worked with the school to educate on growing and cooking their own food. And they've got some small gardens which they're now working with. And Birchwood received a silver award for their efforts through the Food for Life partnership. And I always think it's worth mentioning that Birchwood School actually have a lot of staff from out of the town. I think there's about 160 people there, and I was quite amazed at the amount of short-term staff that come from the town. So it's an employer as well as doing good work. I then went to open the new original factory shop in the centre of the town. This company's got several outlets throughout the country, and they seem to be expanding in other different towns as well. We then went to Stafford Park to the IMEC, which is the Mechanical Engineers Railway Challenge competition. That's really, really interesting because there was 11 teams from this country and through Europe all competing, and they have to design and make a challenge of a railway engine fueled by whatever means they want to do. And then it has to be past certain tests of speed, braking distances, economy of fuels and all different things. And this year it was actually won by a Polish university. I then had a request to go to Gretton Court because it was one lady's 100th birthday. So I couldn't really refuse on that one. And every time I go to Gretton Court, it's a nice atmosphere there and they're really pleased to see you. I then went to Dove Cottage Open Day, which was another well-attended event. They had really good weather and they raised over £5,000 on that day. I now just hand over to the deputy for just to run through because he's been doing some events on my behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did say I'll support you in your second year. And it got underway with straight after we received the honour of being Deputy Mayor. I attended the 50th anniversary of Ragdale Hall, where I did meet a fellow councillor there. I shan't mention any names. Oh, you give it away, Margaret. Which is very good. And obviously my wife attended with me, the Deputy Mayoress, and she said, if any more dues like that coming along, please put them my way. So she really enjoyed herself, and we used all the facilities, and it was a marvellous place. And also attended a Lions 49th charter luncheon at Sarsby Knoll. Obviously the Lions in Melton do a very good job fundraising and doing charity work around the town. So that was well attended, where I did meet former councillor John Ayleyworth, who was the MC for the Lions. So we had a good chat with him. I also went on to met an invite from Lady Sarah McCorkadale at the Beaver Castle and the Kennels, doing the judging of the puppy show. It was a very hot day, most enjoyable, nice afternoon tea and all the business. That was very nice. And then finally, I attended the Keep Melton Active weekend, officially opened it in the Play Close in front of the bandstand there, and the marvellous initiative from the council and all the events throughout the town, the swim baths and rugby club and all things was all free for people to enjoy over the weekend. And now I'd like to hand back over to our Mr. the Mayor.
Thank you very much. Item 5, leaders' announcements. I invite the leader, Councillor Allnett, to make his announcements, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I begin with 2 apologies? This looks a bit pretentious, but it's because I've got a couple of medical conditions that I need to contain. The other thing I want to apologise for is the nervousness and look on the senior leadership team. If they are looking worried, it's entirely my fault and not theirs. Mr. Mayor, I trust that you continue to recover from your recent accident and that the offending bovine is now part of the food chain. Mr. Mayor, I would like now to give way to Councillor Margaret Glancy, who has a short word to say.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sure members here tonight will join me in paying tribute to Jean Forbes, who sadly passed away recently. Jean and her late husband, Bill, were heavily involved in many local groups over the years. Both were devoted to the Friends of Melton Country Park, both working alongside fellow volunteers and council officers to make our country park what it is today. I always remember Jean providing tea and biscuits when the visitor centre wasn't open on a Saturday morning during the work party days. She would turn up with her big flask of tea and loads of biscuits just to keep us going while we were cutting down hedgerows, cutting back trees and shrubs. She certainly looked after all the volunteers really well. In recognition of their contribution to the local community, a new road on the development adjacent to the country park was named Forbes Avenue after Bill and Jean. We may have seen a photograph of in the local press of Jean standing next to the road sign with a huge smile on her face. She was so elated to be honoured by the community in this way. She was a good friend, a friend who will be sorely missed by all those who had the honour of knowing her.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I also thank Councillor Helen Cliff for bringing to our attention a request from Gillian Milner to restore our Millennium quilt to public display. Long-serving members will recall that it hung in the old council building, and after the fire it was transferred to the visitor centre in the country park. It was then placed in the public library, where it has been languishing in a box. I understand that work is now in hand to place it on public display in this building. On the 26th of May, working with the Department for Work and Pensions, we hosted here a recruitment day where over 140 people attended, with 19 job applications completed and 5 on the spot job offers made. The event was supported by 20 employers and providers promoting opportunities with their companies. And I do want to acknowledge that this was initiated by the previous administration. In early July, we held our second Let's Get Moving Melton Day, where over 1,000 people participated across 40 different opportunities to try different sports and physical activities. I was unwell at the time and I could not attend, but so too was some of our staff. But the remaining few pulled out all the stops to make it another brilliant success. And this included one of our newest and youngest members of staff, and I'm very grateful to them for their efforts. Mr. Mayor, we were delighted to join you for the annual Armed Services Day. And after the formalities, I enjoyed meeting a group of elderly veterans over rolls and tea. It wasn't as flash as you two enjoy. We exchanged experiences, and I actually sang a few lines from that old National Service song, Kiss Me Goodnight, Sergeant Major. Then I realised that the chap I was talking to was in fact a former Sergeant Major. But he was okay, I'm pleased to say. Mr. Mayor, may I remind members that looking forward, on the 24th of August, on Ukrainian Independence Day, there is a service at St Mary's in Melton. And on Wednesday, the 13th of September, the Melton District Money Advice Centre have an open event, and all us members are invited. It's between 12 and 3 p.m. Their work is an important help to many individuals and families in very testing times. It is also an indirect support to this council as a collector of taxes and a supporter of people. And I do ask members for their continued support. On Sunday, the 17th of September, from 10 to 12, there is the annual Battle of Britain service at St Mary's Melton. Now, this is an opportunity to remember all those from this country, but also all those from across the world who flew and died in our defence. In particular, those 2 Polish squadrons deployed at a desperate phase and a crucial phase in that particular campaign. Mr. Mayor, closer to home, on Thursday, the 3rd of August, there is a charity football match between Melton Borough Council and Leicester City Community at the All England Ground, Saxby Road. It kicks off at 7 p.m. I'm really saddened to know that neither Councillor Melise Graham nor I made it into the team, but perhaps next year, Melise. The money raised will be for Young Lives versus Cancer and is also in support of our colleague Nick Sack and his young son. I understand he is currently in remission and progressing, and I'm sure that all here join in thoughts and prayers for the whole family. And then on the 7th of September, between 5 to 7 p.m. here at Parkside, there is our social event organised by our staff, and I thank them very much in advance. Mr. Mayor, members will wish to know that apart from having 1 week on holiday and 1 week incapacitated with man flu, I have attended as your leader and on your behalf a number of events. I attended the Local Government Chronicle Awards along with Councillor Graham, and I'm grateful that he joined me. We were shortlisted as the most improved council in the country, so that was a good effort and is a tribute to all concerned. The next event was a much more sober event, I have to say. It was the Management Journal Awards, 223 Chief Executive of the Year. And our Chief Executive came second. Now, of course, if the council had been under a different administration, he would have come first. But there you are. we'll give it another go in 4 years, shall we? I've attended the LGA annual conference, which was a very excellent opportunity to network with a variety of councillors from all parties and to garner a lot of ideas for this council. I've attended the Members Advisory Group, which is the county-wide strategic planning forum, and I've attended the Police and Crime Panel AGM on behalf of Councillor Cox, who was not able to attend. I've also attended the East Midlands Council's AGM, which was a very useful event for us in terms of the planning issues that were discussed. I've also met with the Harborough Council leader and with 3 local facility user groups in this borough. I've met the local manager of the Waterfield and MSV with the chair of scrutiny, and that was also very informative and helpful in our future deliberations. I've attended with our housing staff a walk around with tenants to be shown refurbishment and repair work in our void properties, and that will obviously come up from time to time in the future. I have responded to the East Midland Railways consultation on the proposed ticket office closures, and I'm grateful to Councillor Lumley for his help in this respect. I have addressed our staff en masse. I think they were mostly awake, and along with that was with Councillor Glancy, and I've met 2 new members of staff, which was an interesting time to hear what they had to say and their thoughts about the future. I have been dealing with 7 different ward-specific problems raised with me by members present, and all in all, I've done a great deal of reading. Mr. Mayor, it has only been 2 months since our annual meeting, and this has been an intense and hectic time for councillors and staff alike. I would like to thank everyone for your efforts at a time of adjustment and preparation to face an uncertain future. At our annual meeting and in the media afterwards, I emphasised that we would take time to analyse the problems, prepare thoroughly and implement methodically. We would not be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we would seek to build on areas where useful and worthwhile work had been done and achieved in the past by other administrations. We would be keen on establishing at this early stage a more collegiate and collaborative tone for the whole council. We would seek to ensure that everything we do will embrace the town of Melton and the 70 or so villages, and of course that great jewel in our crown, Bottisford. We have made a start on all these themes, and we shall continue down this road. Everyone is welcome to join the caravan. I understand that some dogs will bark, but the caravan will move on. May I thank Councillor Ronan Brown for a series of questions on our housing remit and upcoming legislation. He is, of course, earns a living in this sector, and his professional points are well received and always welcome. The Social Housing Regulation Act 2023 received royal assent on the 20th of July. It is important in various ways, but especially in the renewed importance for professional training. It is my intention to publish the questions from Councillor Brown and my response for all members to see, and so that we can discuss these points in due course in the appropriate forum. There also appears on the horizon the prospect of grants to be bid for, another bidding process, to enable development of skills in the planning sector. Now, on the one hand, this is very good news, but of course, there's no guarantee that we'll get it. So naturally, it comes with a health warning. On my to-do list, Mr. Mayor, there are other things I haven't started yet to think about, and that is the climate change emergency, food waste recycling, and the response of statutory consultees in the area of planning. I'm particularly concerned with the anecdotal experience of our residents in their own areas where they live do not always match up to the advice we get from the statutory bodies. I'm thinking, of course, the vexed issue of flooding. And I think that gap is something we need to address outside of the planning application process, but as a corporate objective. And I hope other members will agree with me on that. Now, I want to mention the proposed doctor's surgery proposed for the Melton Sports Village. And this, I suppose, would amount to a major change. although the concept remains on the table, it now appears that it really will not pass best value or viability tests. We have offered 2 alternatives to the NHS agencies, one of which is in this building. The 2 sites are the subject of technical evaluation beginning next week. And I would like to, I must add that the Asset Working Party will be fully involved at the appropriate stage. And of course, it will feed into the discussion under the corporate plan process. I want to add something I haven't written. I do not in any way criticise the previous leader for his efforts in this direction. It was an honourable and decent sort of objective that he had, even though we may have disagreed about the methods, and I would not in any way suggest that he was wrong in setting off down that road. The suggestion of using the part of this building as a hotel is, I have to say, is off my agenda, but the working party looking at assets will be free to consider any options completely unfettered by myself. And I suppose you could describe that as a major change in itself. Now, Melton Town Centre and its environs is benefiting, or if you prefer, suffering from several different initiatives, and I'm sure we're all aware of what they are. And I'm seeking with the Cabinet and the senior leadership team to rationalise our efforts in this direction. And I see that one of those is the subject of a question later this evening. Now, another change. My Cabinet and I are committed to migrating away from a strong leadership model of Cabinet, perhaps to committee, perhaps not. And I have already commissioned a governance review to enable us to establish a more inclusive, collaborative form of governance. The approach and implications arising from this need to be explored and evaluated properly, and we ultimately need to arrive at something the whole organisation, both members and officers, are comfortable with. Whatever approach we take, we will need to ensure that we maintain clear accountability, transparency, and clarity of action. And of course, we'll conform in every way with, I think it's the 2011 Localism Act. And if I've got that wrong, somebody will correct me. We have already taken some initial steps on this journey through the establishment of a number of member policy development working groups, and are asking Council to endorse an expansion of the membership of the Constitutional Review Working Group so they can oversee the review process. On the corporate strategy generally, we have started the process of developing our new corporate strategy, and the report in the agenda sets out the approach and timescales involved. Cabinet and Scrutiny are establishing 2 member policy development groups to enable discussion and debate on some key strategic issues, including the asset development programme and town centre regeneration. And as far as I'm concerned, I have completely open mind to anything that's proposed. Let's look at it on its merits. Scrutiny will also be undertaking a number of workshops to consider what we can and should do, considering important matters. For example, how we and our partners better support young people in the borough, which is becoming a burgeoning, difficult problem in many areas. The outputs from all the discussions will feed into the informal state of the Melton debate, when every member will have a chance to chip in as they feel appropriate. This will ensure all members can put the strategy development process as we start to shape our priorities and focus for the next 4 years. Nearly finished, Mr. Mayor. Alongside these strategic aspirations, we want the community to feel more connected to this council and its wider members to feel more involved in decision making. And we want to make a difference that people will see in their community as soon as possible. We are establishing new working groups and commencing a governance review, which I've mentioned already. And we want the council to be more connected with our communities. In that direction, we will recruit a community coordinator role to help strengthen these relationships of the town and our rural parishes. We intend to establish a programme of 6 patch walks for key locations across the borough. This will involve ward members, officers and partners, so we can collectively agree what sort of improvements we would like to see. And I hope indeed we will be able to invite county councillors to that sort of event as well, because it's their patch as well. We will transform our approach to the parish liaison by establishing 4 area listed forums based on the county council divisions, bringing together every 6 months representatives from the 3 tiers of local government. We'll build on the success of the first event by hosting a rural cost of living event in where else, Bottisford. And then we will work with our communities to plant 500 trees and recognise and acknowledge the contribution of our volunteers and community groups. And I'm so glad that Margaret was able to reference one of them earlier. And on the final part of our early commitments to make Melton cleaner and greener, we will launch a campaign to tackle fly tipping and take robust action against those caught. And there is some support coming from BIFA in terms of advertising on vehicles, and this is already in hand. We intend to deliver targeted environmental enhancements and cleanups in 5 key locations. Priority neighbourhoods will input from members on where to target those activities. I beg your pardon. And we recognise our council tenants. We wish to recognise our council tenants who look after and maintain their gardens, and will award prizes through the Well Kept Garden Awards scheme. We'll also consider in the future how we might extend this to other residents outside of the council estate. We've been asked to launch a Letters to Heaven project at Thorpe Road Cemetery, enabling bereaved residents to write to their loved ones with their letters stored confidentially before being planted with trees and flowers. Taking focused action in the town centre, removing weeds, utilising the UK SPF fund, and replace and refurbish bins and benches as required, and increasing our proactive approach to ensure the ongoing maintenance and cleanliness of our town. I suppose we might say we're going to be tough on grime, tough on the causes of grime, but it may have been said before, I'm not certain. Finally, Mr. Mayor, and this will be finally, I want to say one word about the prospect for the swimming pool, Waterfield, and the future. It's a matter of fact that particular pool.
No, that's fine. You're not being required to vote, no.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a matter of fact that it's in a poor state and it receives a lot of adverse publicity. This is despite the fact that the local management team are doing really well. So ultimately, we need to replace it. Now, we looked at a very small cast forward, and simply to have a very minimal facility on a different site, which it would have to be built first before you close down the old one. We're looking at something like a 15% hike on council tax, which is clearly nonsense. So the vision is to look towards an 8 or 10 year horizon for that replacement in order to develop a feasible program that is practical. But in the meantime, we've got to keep the old pool alive. And that, I suppose, is another major change. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Public question time. No questions have been received. Questions from members. 2 questions have been received and they will be taken in the order which they were received. I'd like to invite Councillor Graham to ask the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the question was asked long before the leader gave a very good speech of what he was saying, but probably the sentiment behind it is the same. So the leader was quite rightly proud to represent our council at a recent award ceremony to acknowledge the achievements of a past council. The mantra of a current leader is a requirement for change. Can he please advise the council what this means and what changes he envisages? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sort of half apologise for giving you the answers already. It was my intention to do that before you asked the question, and it doesn't invalidate the question at all. I would reject the phrase mantra, which I believe comes from a, let me think, 17th century Sanskrit dialect, which is actually about singing psalms and dancing, although it is derived from the Sanskrit word to think. I have taken part in one of those mantras in the Himalayas with some Buddhists, and it's jolly good fun. It's a bit like hokey cokey. However, working on the basis that what you really mean is my opinion that we should make more change. Well, of course, the first big change, probably the best change of the lot, was to change administration. So we're starting as we intend to go on. The thrust of our approach with respect to change is to make the council more open, involving more people before decisions are made. And I hope I've adumbrated that general thrust to you. I'm concerned, deeply concerned, and it was exemplified when I went to the East Midlands Council by the Conservative leader of Lincolnshire and everybody in our region who argued with 2 MPs present that in fact this region is underfunded. In terms of funding, we are on a knife edge, and it's my determination that we don't go over that edge by grandiose schemes which we can't afford. So that is not specifically a change in terms of detail, but I think I've mentioned the GP surgery and the swimming pool. These are changes of direction which I think will benefit the community in the long run. I've already spoken about other smaller changes which we're implementing, and I would refer you to those. But nevertheless, there will be further things to look for as we move forward. It's only been 8 weeks, but we're doing quite well, and I'm quite happy. And when we come to the second question, I can perhaps add to that change anthem as opposed to mantra.
You may also put a supplementary question.
No, I thank you. I raised the question because they stood on a program of change. So I would like to thank you, Amelina, for his answer. Where after election, we offered the Labour group a couple of places on our proposed cabinet, and I fully understand that they were not allowed to join us because of orders from above, and they therefore formed a coalition with independent councillors.
Is that a question?
Yeah,
or?
the question is just after that.
Yeah.
Coalition of independent councillors with similar persuasion. Local politics, like national politics, relies on leadership that is scrutinised by an opposition. And that is why, as a Conservative group, we stood on a fully costed manifesto reflecting our principles. The question is, Ray, does the leader realise that as a group, we're unable to blindly support uncosted ideas and aspirations as they occur, and it is unfair to ask us to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I accept, as somebody once said about 150 years ago, the job of an opposition is to oppose, and I fully accept that. And you've got to ask probing questions, and I wouldn't, get in a huff over that. Regarding costed projects, major projects, I agree with you entirely. They have to be costed, and that is why I've looked at the doctor's surgery proposal, reasonable proposal at the outset, and it's clearly not financially viable, and that's why I'm drawing back from it. But I agree, we do have to cost things before we implement them. Some things, as you know, Mr. Mayor, can be purchased, as it were, from within an existing budget which has already been approved. And to add to that, as the leader of the opposition knows, we have been awarded various packets of money through various government schemes, and it's some of that money that we're immediately spending. So there's nothing urgently vital to worry the opposition at the moment. And if they care to come to all of the working groups, they'll learn a lot more.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Councillor Brown to ask the second question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, question on behalf of the Conservative Group. During the election campaign leader, a number of Labour and independent candidates stood on a platform of stating that you would change the levelling up fund monies that had been secured by the previous administration, and monies would be moved to more town centre focused, although we have to remember the cattle market and theatre are part of the town centre. A number of candidates in both groups commented on Facebook at various times that you felt the cattle market investment was not something you could support, and the money should be spent in the town centre. Can you let the council know what you're planning to change as per comments and commitments made to the public businesses? And can you confirm if you will be investing if you will be investing in the cattle market, if you will be investigating investment in the cattle market as commented by some candidates during the 2023 campaign? Thank you.
Point of clarification, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor, yes,
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Brown has put a question in writing and then has slightly changed the question. As I raised with you just before the meeting, Councillor Brown had stated that during the election campaign, Labour and independent candidates had sort of said, and I'm welcome the change that he's inferred that only a number of candidates, but equally, I know, in fact, most
I
candidates
think the
didn't.
point has been clarified. I'm sorry.
No,
He has changed that. And
just-
so I did
yeah.
ask you to just keep
So
it to one
just
line
finish this
before we
point,
started
if-
the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
And so
Just the
I'll just have
clarification.
to ask you
The
just to leave that now
the
because it has
clarification
been
I-
clarified.
Can I
Thank you.
point the clarification?
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll have to ask you to sit down, please. I just need you to sit down, please. Thank you. I did ask you to just keep it to one line. Thank you.
Just to be clear, clarified in the way the question was.
And the point was clarified in the way that it was put through.
And we'll make sure.
Thank you.
We'll make sure it's referenced in the minutes. As
And
well.
we'll have this referenced in the minutes. Thank you.
Sorry, Chamber. I didn't stand on any platform being claimed, and we shouldn't claim with authorities. People have apparently
Nobody's
said,
particular name was actually mentioned.
that's fine, and that's
Thank
what I'm saying. As long as the
thank
clarification
you very
for
much.
myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can now invite the leader, Councillor Holnett, to provide a response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Brown for their question and the clarification. And it rather speaks to the thing that I wanted to say. So far as I'm concerned, I and my 4 Labour candidates, we didn't stand on a manifesto. We had an election address. I did read the Conservative manifesto. Fine, okay, that's all right. But our point was this, and I quoted Andy Street, the Conservative mayor, very successful mayor of the West Midlands, who described the levelling up fund process as a begging bowl procedure. And he went on to say, the centralised system of London civil servants making local decisions is flawed. Levelling up money was not devolved for local decision makers to decide what is best in their area. And indeed, our local MP, Alicia Cairns, confirmed this when she said that the decisions about what projects would be accepted or rejected would be made by civil servants. And I agree with both of them. There you are, a Labour councillor agreeing with 2 Conservative politicians. So that's not a bad start. So we were complaining about the process. That's what we were complaining about. And we juxtaposed that with what was happening with our swimming pool. And as a piece of political rhetoric, what we were saying to the electorate was, look, if we were just given the right amount of money in the first place, we would make choices. Now, it might be, I don't know, the choice would have been to go ahead with the proposals at the stockyard, but at least we would be in control of it instead of this sort of piecemeal approach. Now, the other half of the question, which is quite legitimate, are we going to change monies? Well, we can't change monies. Are we not? Change it for what? Euros, dollars? Do you mean, are we going to move money out of the scheme? Well, Councillor Brown knows as well as I do that we are in a straitjacket from the government, and there is some flexibility, but it's at the margins. But what our main objective is to make certain that the job is done properly and it does not compromise the town centre, which is why I said in the election statement, which I wrote, was that there was a widespread belief that the town centre, however you describe it, and I don't include the stockyard in the town centre, but that, we know what we mean, don't we? The point is it going to be detrimental as well as advantageous? There will be pros and cons, and we've got to tease those out. Now, this cabinet, Mr. Mayor, is in the process of doing that, and it would, at a later date, I can amplify on what we might change to make it more of a success. But I'm determined to do that. And if you think I'm looking a gift horse in the mouth and throwing it all up and passing it back to government, I'm not the county council and I'm not building roads, all right? And I'm certainly not tearing up agreements like the Northern Ireland Agreement, okay, which some of your compatriots would wish us to do. When we've signed an agreement, we will stick to it. That's all there is to it, but we will try and make it work better for the people of Melton Borough.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, do you wish to appoint a supplementary question?
Cheers, that's great. Thank you, Leader. Thank you for your frank and candid response. And I think we're all clear. Can I just follow up with a following question, just to be absolutely clear that you're going to move forward to see the project through, and we're going to put to bed all the negativity that's been had from any group around this issue, and we're going to move forward. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I will certainly go forward with the project. I don't know what he means by negativity. I mean, I've heard comments off stage by people who are not here, and deal with those in their, in their good time. I will keep an open mind, and keep focus on the facts, and I will keep pegging away at the merits of each thing. There are a number of things to do with that project which I don't find as satisfactory in the detail. Mr. Mayor, it would not be appropriate for me to unpack those tonight because that's a sort of discussion in progress. But once we've resolved some of those, I will certainly tell the council what the conclusions are at the appropriate time. But he will understand there's some of those things that might wander into the area of commercial in confidence. So I've got to be truthful and lawful in this, and I will come back on another occasion, and maybe we'll have an opportunity in the working groups, which I hope he'll attend.
Thank you. Item 8, motions on notice. There is one motion on notice to hear this evening. The motion we have is the debate, not hate motion. I invite Councillor Olnett to propose and outline the motion and move on an on-notice motion, and you have up to 10 minutes. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members have had the document. I'm sure they've read it. I'm going to move it formally. I'll reserve my right to speak at the end if there's a strong debate back and forth. But I think Council have heard enough from me for the moment.
Thank you. Invite Councillor Graham to second, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The leader will find that he gets lots of applications to put motions on agendas for the council, and we cannot adopt them all. But I do have pleasure in seconding this motion, because we all abhor bullying in whatever guise it comes. And this motion is slightly different to the one that Councillors Higgins and Faulkner brought to us on the 23rd of February, as it widens the scope to members of our community. Those at yesterday's joint staff working group will have heard of a terrifying ordeal suffered by one of our officers. This is totally unacceptable, and this motion makes that clear. I had a look in reception and saw the signage that says that we take antisocial behaviour very seriously. This motion will strengthen that, and I have much pleasure in seconding it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak. Please note, any speeches must not exceed 5 minutes. Do any members wish to speak? Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Allnut and Graham for proposing and seconding that. And thank you, Councillor Graham, for acknowledging the anti-bullying motion that myself and Peter Faulkner, who's in the audience, raised. We tried to keep that one a very wide-ranging part that was raised in February 2022. And so what I would like to say is I certainly welcome how the council is now working together and in a listening mode to other members, obviously officers, and also members of the public. That's always, debate is a two-way street. It's one for someone to say something and one for somebody to listen. And when you're in listening mode, that's when you can hear, and if you keep it calm. When you always constantly tell people either to shut up or to not be able to say, that creates frustrations. We see those frustrations that ends up either in political avenues of extreme kind of politics, and that's not the way to go. So we should always be in that listening mode. People who call you up and cast shade on either other members or officers. There are good people in and around our community. And you've got to ask yourself this sometimes. So who's hiding in the shadows? Who are those who are projecting that hate? Because a lot of them don't stand up and then don't do it in front of others, because debate is the best way to challenge that hate. That's why we've seen the fall of the BNP, which is a great achievement for good politics, because the hate some of those people provide and others can only be challenged when debate is allowed to happen. Who is giving credibility to those who do abuse other people by either liking things on Facebook or liking things on X now, not Twitter. I wrote Twitter earlier, but then Elon Musk changed it on social media. And that's really, really important. And we must always stand up to those who do cast shade on others, and for no good reason. We know who you are, and we are no longer going to stand for it. And this, along with the other motions Councillor Graham said, I'm glad that was tied in. Just before the election, there was a member of the public who wrote to all councillors, and I know she's watching today because she has seen this motion, Carol Ridlington. She said, and I'll quote, I've slightly changed it, colluding with such behaviour by not calling out perpetrators is as good as doing the behaviour yourself. And that's why we all members should call that out. We should challenge it. And for example, someone may say something, may cast that shade on another person. But you say, why are they saying it? Why are they challenging or saying something of either a group of people, either members or officers, or any other member of the public? Why are they doing that? And we've always got to call that out. And the only way you call it out is calm debate. And with calm debate, we can challenge those who project that hate and call it all down and make sure that any member who wants to stand and represent their community, no matter whether they're from the left side of politics or the right side of politics, excluding those extreme on the both wings. We are the voice of those people who ask us for help, and those people who try and stop that happening is causing damage to democracy itself. So I very much welcome this. I'm very happy that the LGA have brought this up, and I'll be supporting the motion presented by Councillor Allnut and Councillor Graham. Thank you very much.
Are there any other members wish to comment? Councillor Cumbers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've all been elected to be councillors, and we must all respect each other even when we disagree politically. There has been too much nastiness within this council over the last few years, and some of us have been really sort of victims of it. But it's good to think that we're moving differently now. We'll be acting differently, and we shall see hopefully no more of that nastiness, because it's impeded the way we have worked and how we've been able to work with each other. So I'm really welcome the way it looked as though we're going to be working together properly as councillors should, doing what we can for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glancy.
Thank you, Mayor. Personally, I fully support the motion to raise public awareness of abuse and intimidation directed towards elected members. The abuse can originate from many sources. Abuse of members or officers in any form by anyone and directed to any person is not acceptable. There's no hiding place for those who inflict abuse and personal attacks. And I would encourage anyone to call this out if you are subjected to it. Let's all debate and not hate.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher.
Yep. I'd just like to say that recently I've been at the end of this, and I'd like to think that the members could actually stop liking and putting laughing faces and start from today.
Thank you. Any other members wish to make any comments? No. We will now proceed to the vote then, please. Oh, Councillor Allnut? No?
Proceed to the vote.
Yeah, proceed to the vote then, please.
Mr.
All-
Mayor, may I ask for a recorded vote, and if any other member would wish to join me in asking for a recorded vote?
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
3 members are requested, so we'll move to recorded vote.
Yeah, we had a request from 3 members then, so we'll move to recorded vote then, please.
Like me to administer it for you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Members, we'll now proceed with the recorded vote, and I'll ask you in alphabetical order to confirm whether you are for, against, or abstaining in relation to the motion. Councillor Adcock.
For.
Councillor Allnut. Councillor Ian Atherton.
For.
Councillor Siggy Atherton.
For.
Councillor Mike Brown.
For.
Councillor Ronan Brown.
Yeah, for.
Councillor Butcher.
For.
Councillor Carter.
For.
Councillor Child. Councillor Cliff.
For.
Councillor Cox.
For.
Councillor Cumbers.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Freer.
For.
Councillor Glancy.
For.
Councillor Gordon.
For.
Councillor Graham.
For.
Councillor Hewson.
For.
Councillor Higgins.
For.
Councillor Lumley.
For.
Councillor Mason.
For.
Councillor Joe Orson.
For, for.
Councillor Simon Olsen.
For.
Councillor Pitt Miller is absent. Councillor Pritchett.
For.
Councillor Sharp.
For.
Councillor Thwaites.
For.
Councillor Webster.
For.
That's a unanimous. Vote.
Mr. Mayor,
is
can
20
I just say something, please?
Yes, sir.
This has been put to be recorded. Can we have the mics on when they're speaking? Because some of them didn't have the mics on, so it won't be recording them, please. They just shouted out.
Just to be clear, the recording of the vote is through the documentation we've completed, and that will go into the minutes. So the recording of the vote will be registered through the minutes, just to clarify that. whether the microphones were picked up is immaterial. The recording of the vote has taken place. I can assure members of that. Thank you.
Outcome unanimous with 27 votes. Thank you. Item 9, Cabinet recommendations to Council, Treasury management and actual prudential indicators. I will now invite the portfolio holder for corporate finance, property and resources, Councillor Cox, to present the Treasury management and actual prudential indicators 22-23 report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to propose the report this evening. Councillors will not have missed the rise in interest rates that have affected our communities over the last 6 months. The uplift in interest rates has affected council's revenue position. The return we get from our investments is now not an insignificant amount, although the security of our investments always has been with the last administration and always will be the primary consideration over the rate of return we receive. The rise in rates have increased further this year, so it is very welcome news from an investment perspective, but of course that will limit the that will have an impact should the council decide to borrow and fund any of its priorities in the future. We would need to be mindful of when to borrow and to minimise any borrowing costs. These gains have also had to be considered in light of the high rate of inflation, which is also affecting costs the council will incur. Therefore, I do wish to propose recommendation 2.1, the approval of the Treasury Management Annual Report 2022-23, and point 2.2 notes that we note the actual position on the prudential indicators for 2022-23. Thank you.
Can I ask for a seconder, please?
Happy to second that, Jim.
I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand if they indicate if they wish to speak, please. Councillor Child.
Can I just ask the portfolio holder, on page 46, I know the figures are very small. The local authority property fund is showing -7.7. You may not be able to answer it tonight, and that'll be fine, but I just wondered, I know this is operated differently to money market funds, but I just wondered, quite a significant minus that. You could. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Child. Can I just clarify? So it's on page 46 and your question relates to?
Sorry, it's about halfway down. No, it's 3/4 of the way down.
Yeah.
The local authorities property fund. It's the investment portfolio on page 46.
Yeah, I do have an idea on that, but I'll come back to you privately on
I've
that.
got an idea, but I can't just think what it is.
Exactly. It
Thank
has
you.
been explained to me and I can't recall it at this exact moment, so I will get back to you privately. Thank you.
Have any other members got a question? Councillor Higgins.
Yeah, just a really quick one is and as Councillor Charles was just saying, in the money market funds, the bond market's inverted. And what that means is to borrow, the government to borrow over short government gilts and the US Treasury over 3 to 6 months represents a higher interest rate return than if you was going to lend the government money over 1, 5 or 10 years. Not necessarily for an answer now, but obviously for debate and to mark that for the portfolio holder. But is the council in its treasury market looking to put some of its money, as Councillor Charles was saying, into those short dated government gilts, which is representing a higher return than those that you're doing over 5 or 10 years of government gilts, because it's a lower risk. And it, usually when the bond market is inverted as it is now, that does represent
usually that recession is on its way quite a lot of the time. So there could be massive headwinds, but to maximise income and reduce risk, this council may want to speak with its Treasury market partners and look at shorter government gilts, which would represent a higher income at the moment than the 5 and 10 year gilt or 30-year gilt. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Higgins. I do note that the team regularly perform really well compared to other authorities in the East Midlands within our benchmarking group in terms of investments. So I will raise that suggestion with them, but noting that they do perform well. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, please? There are no other questions, then we'll now proceed to a vote, please. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 10, recommendations and reports from committees. Scrutiny Annual Report 22-23. I now invite Councillor Child to present the Scrutiny Annual Report 22-23. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Scrutiny Annual Report summarises the activities carried out by the Scrutiny Committee throughout the 22-23 municipal year. There have been reports considered at committee meetings, which resulted in 16 feedback reports being submitted for consideration by Cabinet and 6 workshops. During the course of the year, it has been clear that the function of scrutiny has developed a more collaborative and partnership role with the executive. As members of the committee seized upon the opportunity of getting involved at a deep development stage of policy development, as evidenced by scrutiny's involvement via the workshops in the asset development plan and the leisure procurement strategy. Some people may ask, why produce an annual report? Firstly, I would say that the executive scrutiny protocol states at section 18 that the scrutiny committee will produce an annual report for the council. Secondly, it gives members a chance to reflect on the work completed during 22-23. And finally, I would say that it's a good mechanism for the council to promote the work of scrutiny to residents and the public. I'd like to thank all those members who supported me during my year. And so I now turn to the recommendation and propose that you note the Scrutiny Annual Report 22-23 at Appendix A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation. I think in doing so, it's quite right and appropriate that I acknowledge as this year's Chair of Scrutiny the immense amount of work done by the outgoing chair and the committee itself. And I'm very grateful for the fact that that experience will be here for this year. And I'm sure we'll be working together very well. Thank you.
I'll now open this item to debate. Invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak, please. No. I can confirm that this item has been noted by the council. Item 11, Incorporate Parish Council. I will now invite the Deputy Monitoring Officer to present the Incorporate Parish Council report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members. Subsequent to the deadline for nominations for the parish elections held on the 4th of May, there were not enough validly nominated candidates to fill the 5 vacancies for the parish of Garthorpe and Coston. There were just 2 valid nominations submitted by candidates who were declared elected without a contest. A by-election was prepared and the notice published, but no further nominations papers were submitted. The Garthorpe and Coston Parish Council therefore remained inquorate. This report seeks authority to make an order under Section 91 of the Local Government Act 1972 to appoint Councillor Graham to be a parish councillor on an interim basis to enable the parish to operate and make decisions, including co-option of further members. Council are also being asked to approve a delegation to the returning officer to make such orders in future and to adopt the procedure at Appendix B for making temporary appointments to inquirate parish councils. This will allow for expediency should such a situation arise again in the future, and the procedure will also provide clarity on the process that should be followed. I'm happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have a proposer for the recommendations, please?
Delighted to propose the motion, Mr. Mayor. Anything to give Councillor Graham a bit more work to do, because he doesn't have much as the opposition, does he really?
A seconder, please.
Happy to second.
Thank you. I'll now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand if they indicate if they wish to speak, please. Councillor Higgins.
Just a quick point, Councillor Graham, this probably might be your easiest election that you've got. So anyway, but hope it all goes well, by the way.
Any other councillors? No, we'll now proceed to the vote then, please. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 12, Local Government Boundary Commission for England, an electoral review. I will now invite the Chief Executive to present the Local Government Boundary Commission for England electoral review report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members, in 2021, the Council was notified the Boundary Commission for England intended to undertake an electoral review within Melton, with a view to any new ward boundaries being in place for the election in 2027. The Commission has a duty to undertake an electoral review of every principal local authority, and I quote, from time to time. And the last one was in Melton, took place in 2002. The Commission has recently contacted the Council again and confirmed the start of the process, which the Council will need to support. The first stage is to establish how many councillors the Council after 2027 should have, and taking into account some set criteria, including projected housing growth, the Council and political groups within the Council will be invited to submit proposals to the Commission over the coming months, and to do so no later than April 2024. Once the Commission has considered the submissions and established the number of councillors, they will initiate a public consultation, inviting proposals on the warding patterns from ourselves, parish councils, community groups, and members of the public. Again, there will need to be an evidence-based support for this information, and it will be assessed against a set criteria. Following the Commission's consideration of these submissions, they will publish their draft recommendations, and a further round of public consultation will take place. We would expect their final recommendations to be published in April 2025, and the order then laid in Parliament later that year. The report before you this evening seeks to update Council on the current position and proposed timetable, and also seeks to confirm that the Constitutional Review Working Group would oversee the necessary work and report back to the Council at the appropriate time prior to any submissions to the Boundary Commission. Can I also advise all members that we will be holding a briefing with the Boundary Commission in September, so they can provide a direct briefing to you all on the process we will follow. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a proposer, please?
Happy to propose, Mr Mayor.
And a seconder, please.
More than happy to second this. Thank you.
Now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak, please. No. I can confirm that this item has been noted by council. Item 13, Corporate Strategy 2024 to 2028.
Order. I think we had to approve one of those. I think 2.4 was approval, wasn't it? I withdraw that. I was ill-advised.
My mistake, sorry.
Yeah, just to confirm, Mr Mayor, they're both noting recommendations, so the council has undertaken its duty in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13, I will now invite the leader, Councillor Allnett, to present the Corporate Strategy 24-28 report. Thank you.
So Mayor, I'm only going to present it insofar as saying that this is a document about process, not about substance. It's been on the table, people have read it, and I think that's all I need to say this evening. When we get into the meat of it, it'll be a different kettle of fish. Of course, if there's any questions about process, happy to discuss that tonight. Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I formally move it.
Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. I will now open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak, please. Nope. We will now proceed to a vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. With no further business, I declare the meeting is closed at 7:46, yeah.
Members, ladies and gentlemen,